What's up guys, Harry here with the Rideshare Guy, and today I've got a video for you on what's the difference between rideshare insurance and commercial insurance. So you may have heard these two terms thrown around interchangeably, but there's actually a big difference, and I'm going to tell you what matters to you as an UberX or a Lyft driver. So in order to sign up as a rideshare driver, whether you're with Uber or Lyft, all you actually need is a regular personal insurance policy. So that's going to be the same policy that anybody, you or I, anybody out on the road is supposed to have, a regular personal insurance policy. But the thing with Uber and Lyft is that they don't provide coverage at all times, right? When you're en route, once you accept a trip and you're en route to a passenger, they call that period 2. And once you're with a passenger, they call that period 3. During those times, Uber and Lyft cover you with their commercial insurance policy. But if you have the app on and you haven't gotten a request yet, that's called period 1 or the insurance gap period, because Uber covers you at much lower limits and they don't provide any collision coverage. So basically you get into an accident and they don't get coverage. And your personal insurer also doesn't want to cover you during that time, because to them, technically you're driving for Uber and Lyft and they don't want to pay insurance if you get into an accident during that period, since you wouldn't be online and driving unless you're working for Uber and Lyft. So it's a little bit of a gray area, and they call it this insurance gap period or period 1. So typically, rideshare insurance will cover that period 1 gap, and it is a little bit more expensive. We've got a big insurance marketplace on our site where you can sort by which state you're in, see which options are available. But typically what you're going to see is in total $50 to $200 a month for rideshare insurance, and obviously that's a big range, but it does depend on your driving history, and it usually is going to be a little bit more than a personal policy, although in some cases it's actually cheaper, or in some cases it's about the same price. The thing though with rideshare insurance is that it's actually contingent on you doing a ride with Uber and Lyft, right? So if you go out and buy rideshare insurance, it's like a normal personal insurance policy, and then the rideshare insurance portion only kicks in really during that period 1 period. So sort of think of it as a personal policy plus a rideshare endorsement. Now, a commercial insurance policy is a little bit different, right? A commercial insurance policy is a 24/7 insurance policy that covers you and your car. So all Uber Black, all Uber SUV, and taxi drivers have to have this type of policy. So with a commercial insurance policy, you can have multiple drivers on that vehicle. You can do rides off the app, so you could just go and give a ride to your neighbor or a client or whatever it might be and be covered insurance-wise. Technically, you'd still need a taxi or limo license to operate in your city. That's a different matter. And then the final thing with commercial insurance is that it costs about $3,000 to $5,000 a year. And so it really only makes sense if you're a full-time driver, right? If you're doing lots of private rides, right? That's hundreds of dollars a month. And so you can imagine for a part-time driver, or even your typical UberX driver who's driving at much lower rates, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the reason why we get a lot of questions about commercial insurance versus rideshare insurance is because, as you can imagine, commercial insurance, like I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense financially for an UberX driver, right? But there are a lot of UberX drivers who want to do rides off the app, right? Who want to build a private clientele network, right? And want to basically be able to do rides and provide insurance to their customers, but without having to go through Uber and Lyft, right? Let's say you're a really great driver, or you have a nice car, or you're super high rated, and you have clients, passengers who want to get rides with you again in the future. Now, one option is you can always use a scheduling app like Userve, or you can just do it via text message, right? Get your passengers' information, and then arrange for the ride through text or through a scheduling app like Userve, which is probably what I would recommend since it makes it a lot easier. And then you go to them and do that ride on the UberX platform, right? So it's sort of like a semi-pre-scheduled ride, because you can't organize that through the Uber app, but you can use a third-party app like Userve to go ahead and do that. So that's one option. And then other drivers will really just do the rides, and I guess if they get into an accident or whatever, they're sort of going to have to lie to their insurance company, and obviously that's something that I can't really recommend. But I mean, does it happen? Yes, there are drivers who go and do rides off of the app, whether they're taking clients from Uber or they have clients in their area, and they're basically just going and being a private driver, but without the commercial insurance and without the taxi and limo license. Now, Is there, I think it's going to be pretty tough to get caught because there aren't, exactly stings going after this. I mean, if you try to grab some random person off the road, I have heard of stings happening for that. Like I said, it's not something I recommend. Does it happen? Yes. But at the same time, it is sort of technically illegal. So, I mean, I do hope in the future, though, there will be some type of pay-per-ride type commercial insurance product, because that way, if you have some clients that really enjoy your services, then you want to do a ride off the app, you could go to them and say, hey, I can do this ride. It's going to cost this amount. And I have commercial insurance too, so then you're covered insurance-wise, because that's really, I think, the big risk in a lot of these situations, right? You don't want to get into an accident off of the platform and then have to lie to your personal insurance company, which is probably a felony, I'm assuming, or get into a situation like that. So if you're an Uber X or Lyft driver, you're typically almost always going to want to go for rideshare insurance. If you're more of a professional driver, if you're doing Uber Black, if you're in a taxi or Uber SUV, or just have a ton of private clients, you're going to want to go for commercial insurance. And typically in that case, if you're going for commercial insurance, you're going to need to find a broker, an insurance broker, who will get you quotes on your behalf. We have a listing on our site of a good commercial insurance broker in New York. There are a lot of people in New York that need commercial insurance because New York City requires that. And then, of course, if you are an Uber X driver, you're going to want to go for the rideshare insurance. And we have a marketplace on our site where you can learn more about that and also find a super knowledgeable local agent in your area and just see which companies are in your area so you can compare prices and get the best deal. So hopefully that clarifies the commercial insurance versus rideshare insurance. If you do have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, let me know. Give us a like, give it a thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos in the future. And until then, talk to you later.